Let me introduce you to a different term which fits better: social carnage. When women and men who act like women are referring and talking about toxic masculinity, they're actually referring to this term, social carnage. Men engage in social carnage as part of not only masculinity, but as a part of what they actually are based on physiology. Examples of, quote, toxic masculinity, which is actually social carnage, would be things like the open palm slap to a woman's rear they were in a relationship with, causing her some kind of physical pain for the man's own personal amusement. Getting your first BB gun and shooting indiscriminately every bird you can find because it's really fucking fun. Creating a diabolical trap for an evil raccoon or squirrel that has been feeding on your birdseed dispenser, where said diabolical trap has a maze of corridors filled with additional ways for the critter to die horribly, which they must evade, only to, in the end, find out it was never going to escape, but you had a conibear trap laid there too, and it was always going to slam shut, crushing the little bastard's skull. Then you jump out and you do the ha 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 you little fucker dance, which goes like this: ha 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 you little fucker, I fucking killed you, ha 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 ha. Now, while some woman somewhere is looking on disapprovingly, social carnage includes hazing, moderate bullying, shit talking, being reasonably mean, being somewhat churlish. Okay, includes all those things. Disagreeable, laughing occasionally at the misfortunes of horrible people, and sometimes laughing at the misfortunes of your own friends, causing people a bit of distress for your own personal amusement. While driving down the road, swerving slightly for the raccoon, which everybody knows is 10 points, while your wife calls you a monster and you laugh at her. That, my friends, is social carnage. And we fucking need it real bad. Understand, men are a necessary component in society, specifically because they can handle violence without becoming emotionally invested. They can even look at killing as just a job and turn it on and off. Sometimes it will. This behavior assists men in finding the limits of what is socially acceptable among other men, so we understand how to properly execute our roles as protectors, providers, resource gatherers, and processors. I'll never forget my first time in a kill plant listening to pigs screaming at the top of their lungs while being summarily dispatched by a guy who was talking about how he can't wait to take his son out for a football game this weekend. The casual way he went about slaughtering the food, which would later fill society's belly, while at the same time only thinking about the future of his family, should put this in perspective for you. Men are uniquely equipped for that role and women aren't. They don't understand the complexity of how men perceive empathy and the social duties we have, instead finding our ability to turn off our empathy, including towards them for the betterment of society and others, as being, quote, toxic. It isn't toxic. It is necessary social carnage, of which women and children are the primary beneficiaries. And women should honestly just shut their fucking mouths about it, because they clearly don't understand it, and that's fine. You don't need to understand it, you just need to get out of the way. Behaviors or traits which are masculine used in an unhealthy way. Okay, you can just say that that's definitionally true about any term that you come up with and call it whatever you want. It's a proprietary, you're making up a proprietary term. So here, I'll say toxic masculinity is anybody named Ghosty. Then therefore you are now toxically masculine for my proprietary definition. It's a stupid argument. They say homophobia. Homophobia is toxic masculinity. According to who? According to who? You? What makes you the fucking authority on what is toxic masculinity? Nobody. That's who. And by the way, homophobia is often fucking based. It's part of in-group preference. It is part of the things which are necessary for the good conditioning of a social society. They bring on lack of emotional intelligence. Doesn't mean fucking anything. Emotional intelligence is stupid. It means nothing. What do? Do we get together with a bunch of women and ask them if they feel heard? Is that what emotional intelligence is? Do we come up with a little testy test where we have how do you measure that? How do I measure empathy? What is the unit of measurement that I would use for this?
We have always gone our own way with herbs. That's nature's way. Uncompromising in the way we test and test and test. Persistent with the way we source.
They're just trying to make the term toxic masculinity definitionally true. Progressives do this all the time. I'm going to completely dismantle it. Also, Ryan, Shrek didn't do anything wrong. A bunch of feminized fairy tale creatures tried to steal his shit, and he still went on to fulfill his great duty.
How's it going,
What
man?
was wrong with Shrek wanting to be alone? And also, you failed to point out that his broad lied to him about being cursed so that Shrek would have to marry a monster, Ryan. You didn't point that out, Ryan. That was a very important plot point which you omitted, which proved that there was no such thing as toxic masculinity in Shrek.
Good.
It was a diabolical plot by...
Yeah, going pretty good. Just kind of slow, a little boring. How about you, man?
bunch of feminized fairy tale creatures, along with a heartless woman who was willing to lie to get her way in a marriage that she desired for her own personal benefit. With that, I'll yield the rest of the time.
Thank you so much kindly. And don't forget, I believe everybody here is dual streaming. If you can like, subscribe, and share on any of their ends, I believe the mods will be dropping their channels in the chat throughout the evening. We will go into the debate. We will read and respond to super chats after closing statements, and then we will go into open panel dumpster fire. Outside of that, I leave the floor to all of you. It is open.
If I could just real quick, I'm going to yield the floor to Ghosty after this, but I just want to address the Shrek criticisms. It's funny that you accuse me of leaving out core details about the story, but you don't even mention Lord Farquaad either, the villain of the movie. And you accuse Fiona of lying to Shrek to marry him, which is not at all what happened in that movie.
Do you know why? No, hang on. I actually have to reveal this.
She was revealed to be an ogre well before Shrek and her actually really connected in a romantic way.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on, Ryan.
That's right. Hey, shh. Stop it. Sorry to hear that. Well, at least you've been able to lay down and relax then. That helps.
Going off to marry
Let me
Farquaad
address these.
still after that point. So
Yeah,
and
let
she
me
didn't
address
even
these.
want to go.
Oh yeah, my cat's been in heat, so that's been the main thing. It's just meowing like non-stop. Josh, wait.
Mary Farquaad. So she actually wasn't using her
That's good.
lies about being an ogre to get married. She actually didn't want to go marry Farquaad for most of the movie.
Okay, but she did. So here's what actually happened. Here's your foolish revisionist history. The entire time, Pixar pointed out that Lord Farquaad was short. They were making fun. They were whatever. They were making fun of Farquaad the entire time for being a tiny man, right, with great ambitions. They were clowning on him the entire time. What did they do to him?
It's so annoying. Just like non-stop. Unless I can get her to go to sleep. Shut up and love them. Yeah, pretty much.
Criticize Fiona for the fact that she basically was trying to hide the fact that she was an ogre to advance her own political agenda. Nothing. In fact, they made her out to be some sort of hero, justified all of her actions, while making, of course, the hero of the story.
Yeah, I haven't played any games today. Just mostly been watching videos and stuff.
It's Lord Farquaad, who wanted to get rid of a bunch of nutcases and lunatics and people who could cast witchcraft spells in his kingdom out. They made him out to be a villain, called him short, did horrible things, right? In order to besmirch the fine name of this man, while at the same time trying to cover Fiona for her evil deeds of trying to hide the fact that she was an ogre, right? And was only using this guy to get married to him to break her own curse. You didn't even point that out once, Ryan. Not once.
I don't know. I thought the Shrek example was a pretty good analogy, but we could go into that whole movie maybe. But yeah.
By the way, that was a Reddit thread. You got that? I was reading the Reddit thread.
Did it really? I used AI.
Ryan. Yeah, it came from a Reddit thread. You should just Google it. First thing pops up. Yeah,
That's fine. I don't care.
It's called Shrek Deconstructing Toxic Masculinity.
Cool. So yeah, someone drew the analogy before I thought that.
Yeah, from Redditors, Ryan.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, go see.
Like the best part of that movie is Donkey, and Donkey is like bringing Shrek out of those like toxic traits that he had, where he was pushing everybody away. Again, lack of
Why
emotional
was that?
intelligence.
Okay, so let's get into these.
So he wouldn't live alone. He could
Yeah,
experience
what's
love.
wrong with him living alone?
Well, I mean, we are social creatures. Like,
Well,
it's
he's
not
an ogre.
healthy to live by yourself.
He's an ogre.
Okay, this is like an analogy, though, right?
Yeah, but I
You
mean,
think
within
Shrek
the
was like fooled
confines.
into the marriage? Like
No,
you-
within
you
the
think you
confines-
want that at the end?
Do you think
Within the
Shrek is
confines,
happier?
are you going to let me answer a question? Or you're just going to ask him.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, in the analogy here, this is really simple, right? What is wrong with a guy wanting to be stoic and living alone? What's wrong with that?
Well, for the movie, like Shrek was way happier after he had like a community and marriage and kids and friends.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
called plot convenience.
So don't you think humans are kind of like meant to procreate and have relationships and stuff like that?
Yeah, except for the ones who want to be left alone and live by themselves.
Sure, and I guess that's fine, but
What's toxic about it? Is my question.
it's not.
Well, I would say the thing that was
Go ahead.
supporting the toxic perspective of masculinity was like he'd really internalized the rejection that he'd experienced from society. Again, I brought up the quote about him saying, "I'm an awful ogre. I'm an ugly ogre." Like wanted everyone to run away scared from him, you know. And he was kind of engaging with this in a harmful way, where he was pushing anyone who could have connected with him away, like Donkey, for example, who he eventually becomes great friends with. After Donkey expresses
He's
a
never
very
friends with
accepting, positive example of masculinity to him through friendship, which I think all of us value friendship.
They're not friends. He doesn't even like him. He never likes him. He never even likes him through the second movie. He just tolerates him. That's one. And then secondly,
Disagree.
let's point out something that's pretty simple here, right? Oh, so people were trying to hunt down this guy and kill him. So he decided that he wanted to live alone. He didn't like people very much. That's actually not toxic. That would be healthy. That would be a
No,
healthy
he had
thing
a
to
bunch of
do.
people who were living in his swamp who were, I mean, they were kind of annoying, I guess.
You mean people who are trying to steal his property?
I canceled all my food delivery subscriptions and upgraded to cooking. And it's totally transformed the way I eat because every meal is crafted by award-winning chefs from across the country. The variety is unlike anything I've ever seen, with over 100 menu options.
Well, I think
Sort of.
the whole point.
Farquaad
is
was
that-
trying to steal his property.
Well, okay, by putting people on his property who were then living there and he wanted them off his property. Yeah.
Yeah, displacing them.
Yeah, I think I would be pretty annoyed if I just woke up tomorrow, don't you, Ryan? And there's 25 people on your property.
No doubt, yeah. Especially
Yeah.
if some.
Would it be
sort of asshole over there
toxic
pushing
of
them.
you to want them to leave so that you could live by yourself if you wanted to?
Not necessarily,
No.
but if it was, if I used my rejection of community based on my own internalized trauma from my past of being rejected by that society to avoid connection with those people or with anybody, then that might be toxic.
What if you just don't want? What if you don't want connection with people? That's still not toxic. You haven't actually shown me how that's
It
toxic.
doesn't-
You just assert that it is. So, like, let's say you're traumatized and don't want
Do you
anything
think
to
that
do
men
with the
commit
community.
suicide more than women?
Yeah, but you know why? It's because they're better
Why?
at it. They actually do it. They actually attempted at the same race. Look it up. They attempted at the same race.
Women
It's just
actually
that,
attempt higher. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, it's just that men use pistols, and so their success rate is much higher because they actually
we
know
have
how to
a
use them.
Mental
If
health
women,
crisis
if women
for
actually
now.
needed,
Or do you
well,
disagree?
no, actually, women suffer from mental health problems at exorbitant amounts in comparison to men. It's not even in the same universe. It's much higher for women. Much higher for
Are
women.
they,
Yeah, I don't-
are
I
they
don't know.
more likely to seek help or not?
Women? Sure.
So the whole point is that it's not like a man who lives by
Get the
himself
noise.
because he has PTSD or something. He doesn't want to be around somebody. That's not necessarily like toxic to society. But if you want to live like a healthy
Yeah.
life, I don't think
I feel
anybody wants.
True. Yeah, the way when you're gaming, it really you really need to be in the most comfortable position. So even for me, like sitting down here with my TV up there, it's just kind of not ideal. But it's kind of like all I really can do right now. Unless I put my TV on top of this thing. I wonder if there's room. I don't even think there's room for my TV to fit on top of this thing. It's a little too, the stand's a little too wide.
So like it's not a good idea to have people in isolation. That's just not healthy for humans.
Unless they want to be in isolation.
But if you're doing that out of like trauma, like you're traumatized and you have PTSD, you don't want to be around people, that means you're just living in a mentally unhealthy state. So
Do you know that there are men, for instance, who have to necessarily brave the brutals of warfare, and when they do, right, oftentimes there is no treatment. You can talk about treatment all you want, but you can't actually treat them. It doesn't matter if you give them pills, doesn't matter how much you talk to them, doesn't matter how much you have them in groups. And so a lot of those men end up isolating themselves, right? Or they isolate themselves and their families both, right? And they kind of move away from general society and this type of thing because they actually know that they're quite dangerous. And so they isolate themselves from the group. This is very common. Men have been doing this, by the way, for thousands of years. You can go back and look at the literature on this for men who come back from war and isolate themselves for just this reason, because they know that they have impulse control issues which came from warfare, things like this. Is that toxic?
So I have a lot of military family and a lot of people who have served overseas in various extents, and it seems like to me, at least from my perspective, that they seem to find a lot of comfort in like a fraternity with others who served alongside them, right? That community, that sense of community is very, very important to them.
Ryan,
and without that,
you're not answering
have
my
a lot more
criticism.
issues. Yeah.
I agree with you that there are groups,
cool.
and there are things, and there are things about PTSD and things like this, which it seems to be helpful to have group support and things like this for some people. But for other people, it does nothing for them. Nothing. Because psychology is the study of the mind, the study of the fucking brain, it's the study of the mind. It's a theoretical, philosophical science. It's not a hard science. It's not soft science. Made up shit. It's
Well, the distinction between soft and hard science isn't actually, you're not standing on very solid ground there. They use the scientific method in the quote-unquote soft sciences to collect data.
Yeah, that's true, Ryan. Interestingly, it's interesting that you say that. Have you ever heard of a thing called the replication crisis?
I'm aware.
Yeah, and what two fields suffer the most in the replication crisis in science?
Do you support Israel and the Jewish people? Now, more than ever, Israel needs committed friends.
Presumably psychology and I'm not sure what the other, sociology.
Sociology, yeah, sociology and psychology. Why is that? I thought they were employing the
It
scientific
doesn't really matter. It
method
doesn't mean you
based
can
on
just
data.
dismiss. That doesn't mean you can just dismiss the entire field, right?
Well, no, Ryan. If you had a 70% failure rate, right? If I were to offer you, I don't know, a whole thing of M&Ms and told you only 70% of them were poison, would you eat it?
Yeah, but that's not what we're doing. We're looking at we're looking at specific, like if we look at specific studies, we're looking at data that was collected, seeing the process of how that data was collected, and analyzing that specifically.
Yeah, the problem is that when they try to replicate that data, Ryan, when they try to replicate it, they can't replicate it. Even with the same control groups and the same scientists, they can't replicate it. That's what the replication crisis is. And they try to go through with meta-analysis to try to solve this. They haven't solved it, and it's not even really getting better, Ryan, because it's not a real science. Sociology and psychology, not real sciences. Yes, it's true that you can use forms of the scientific method to collect data for fucking anything on planet Earth, by the way, which would include this field. That doesn't mean that you're employing the scientific process, and here's why. What's the first step in the scientific method, Ryan?
You tell me.
What's the first step?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know any science.
Well, okay, what's the scientific method? Can you tell me that? Can you just tell me the scientific method?
We're not here to talk about the scientific method, are we?
Can you tell me the scientific method or not, Ryan?
No, I'm not going to entertain it.
No? You can't tell me the scientific... So, you're going to tell me about science and can't... Okay, well, the first step is observation. Do you agree with that?
Sure. So are we going to walk through the scientific method, or are we going to talk about the fact that initially you just said that the thing that we were identifying was true? It's just redefined. You just redefined it as social carnage. So you accepted from the get-go.
No. I think that you redefined
the thing that people were
you
identifying
redefined social
as toxic
carnage.
masculinity. You agreed right
No.
at the beginning.
Which people? Which people?
Well, I have a point to make.
Wait, hang on, Ryan. Which people?
No, I yield my time.
No, Ryan, answer my question. Which people?
I don't have to do that.
I think you're just making a fallacious argument.
Please calm down, Andrew.
I think you're just making an argument ad populum.
Okay, so I kind of want to like tie this back to where.
Yeah, go ahead, Ghosty.
So, the point is, you're saying that these men, and I want to move on from this after this, 'cause it's kind of like a rabbit hole, but these men who are living in isolation because they have PTSD or whatever, that them living in isolation isn't necessarily toxic, but you would admit that they are living in isolation due to like an unhealthy mind, like they have PTSD, they have trauma, right? That's why they're living.
We don't know what a healthy mind. We don't know what a healthy mind looks like.
You just admitted that they said they could be a danger to society. So
all we can do is
therefore
base.
they are not they're automatically not healthy.
Listen.
So,
I'll answer your questions, but if you ask me one and I start to answer it and then you override it, I can't answer it. So I'm just letting you know. So you asked me a question.
Okay.
Okay. So you're not answering. Okay. If you're not asking questions,
She was finishing the part of the question, but go ahead.
I'll just answer your question, right? What happens is when sometimes people ask a question and put their own qualifiers on it, engage in their own form of fallacy called question begging, where what they do is they essentially question begging, you're putting the conclusion of the argument in the premise itself, which is, it's absurd. So backing up, let's just look at this. What I'm saying to you is very simple. That you don't know what a healthy mind looks like, because to you, minds don't even exist. A mind doesn't even exist, it's just a brain. That's all you consider a mind to be. If that is the case, you don't even know what a healthy brain looks like. We don't know what healthy chemical compounds in a brain do or don't look like. Everybody has different brains, and you could have a person who has a brain which he was a psychopath and it appears to be completely normal, or you could have 5 psychopaths who have a brain that looks X way, and then you take another person who's not a psychopath's brain, it looks exactly like that.
Okay,
you can't make a determination about what even a healthy brain
but
is.
in this society, we can deem what is
behavior.
We can deem behaviors that are healthy, right? For society.
And who gets to determine that?
I mean, society, I guess.
Okay, society is determining it.
So if somebody can't live in a group because they think they're dangerous or they have PTSD or something, they are that would be an unhealthy person in this context, right? So automatically, again, I don't know if I would call that toxic masculinity, but if somebody's living by themselves because they feel they're dangerous, that wouldn't be an example of the healthiest person in the society.
So Ghosty, let us assume for a moment you agree with me that war is a necessary condition of humanity, at least so far in our history.
Grip, stability, precision. That's the essence of driving. Lawfit.
Don't compromise quality insurance for savings or your time for this ad. Hit that skip button. Or don't, and watch me skip.
Before you continue on, I just want to point out that the topic is a little shifted outside of the dynamics of the prompt. So I want you to go ahead and finish this little variation of it, but I would like to bring it back. I know it's on topic.
Toxic masculinity itself is arbitrary, and so they're trying to give examples of what it is, and I'm trying to refute those examples.
Right.
So example one, when it comes to this, if it's a necessary condition of war or of the human experience, is going to be war. If somebody is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and cannot be treated for it, Ghosty, they can't be treated. Mm-hmm. All treatment has failed, so they self-isolate. What would you do with them, Ghosty?
I mean, if they want to live by themselves, that's fine. And again,
then that sounds perfectly healthy to me.
I'm not saying that's toxic.
So they're fulfilling their societal role then. Is that what you're saying to me? They're fulfilling their societal and social role?
I mean, not. I guess in that, like, I don't know. I don't see it that way.
You don't know?
If they literally cannot get better, which I don't know if that's even true.
Oh, yeah. Well, so psychology doesn't cure anybody.
But
There's nobody gets cured
okay. Well,
because there's no disease. There's no disease process. It's not a disease, right? You don't, like, your depression's it's not a disease. So if you have a person who you're treating who responds to no treatment and then self-isolates, it sounds like they're fulfilling their role for societal expectation just fine to me. It doesn't sound like they're unhealthy by your standards. What would be toxic about that?
again, I'm not saying it's necessarily toxic, but I'm saying that example you're giving isn't like an example of a healthy person. So the example is kind of mute. There's really no point to talking about it.
Then why'd you bring it up as an example of toxic masculinity?
Well, you brought up the isolation, the war guy in isolation.
Example.
So
No, it was your Shrek example.
Yeah, this all started with Shrek,
It's
and then
different kinds
Andrew.
of hang on.
Hold on. It started
That's what
with
I said.
Shrek, and then Andrew pointed out why he isolated himself. He broke
So
down
let's
what you
look-
were saying about
Because
it. and
society
then-
rejected him.
Yeah, so
Shrek
let's
wasn't
look.
a war victim.
He went to war,
Yeah, so
right?
let's look at your ideas. Well, he was suffering from very similar post-traumatic stress disorder
Well,
that you would
do
see
you
from
disagree-
somebody who was in a war.
Do you
Very
disagree
similar.
with my definition of toxic masculinity? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think that social carnage fits it better.
Okay, so you agree that the underlying thing exists, and I guess debate won by that standard
No.
at least, so we can move on to.
I
whatever
agree
else.
that social carnage exists and is a necessary conditional for humanity and is good.
What is social carnage? I don't know what that means.
I literally spent my whole opening defining it for you. Would you like me to pull it back up for you?
Or
Would
just
you
trying
like
to explain what
examples
you
of
meant
it?
by it a little bit in a more conversational manner, right?
Yeah, so social carnage would be behavior which women consider to be suboptimal in men and toxic.
So to translate, I believe like men would in theory view this as normal behavior. This is just what they do.
And
Like
you
he gave
consider
the
it to be
example, right? He gave the example of like shooting the squirrel with the BB gun and the fuck you, whatever.
Mhm.
Whereas a woman
Is that
would look at
toxic?
that. A woman would look
Not
at that and
necessarily.
get the ick
When
from
I'm
it.
driving
right?
down the road and I swerve to hit the raccoon and my wife is freaking out and I'm like, ha 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 ha
I
ha.
think you do that on
Is that
purpose.
toxic?
I personally
Is that toxic?
think
Yeah,
that's toxic.
maybe
Okay,
that might
can you
suggest an underlying-
hang on, can you scientifically break down how that's toxic? Why is that toxic?
I think it would suggest an eagerness to engage in violence in a way that is probably unproductive for engaging with society. But I mean,
It seems highly productive.
If that's the way you want to
Well-
engage, I just think you're going to run into more conflict if you embrace that in more situations than not.
What conflict? Usually the guy behind me, he swerves too because he wants to make sure it's dead.
Oh my god.
What do you mean?
Oh my god.
And by the way, that's what you
Fantastic.
call.
Fostering
Hang on, that's what you
community.
call pickup points. So if I get 10 points for the initial hit and it's not dead and it's still like dragging across the road, and then the guy behind me swerves to take it out completely, he picks up 20 points. Now that
I mean,
fucker and me
it's
are
a
in a
funny bit, but
contest.
you're not really addressing anything, right?
No, I am. I'm asking you why that's toxic. Prove it's toxic. Prove
I
it.
mean, I think I just said that, like, if you are seeking, it could suggest, I'm not saying it necessarily does, I'm saying it could suggest an eagerness to engage in violence where violence isn't necessary.
What do you-
Especially in a
well,
car,
hang on.
where
Yeah,
you're-
but wait,
where you're
what do you mean
endangering the
necessary?
lives of other people.
Wait, what do you mean necessary? This is exactly what I mean by social carnage. I think that men have a standard for when necessary is that women do not have. I think, for instance, if a guy's talking shit to me about my wife and I smack him across the mouth, that was necessary. However, you could make the argument it was unnecessary, couldn't you, Ryan?
So it was necessary to put the people who are in the car's lives in danger to kill a raccoon on the road.
Their lives
for no
weren't in
reason?
danger. Their lives weren't in danger.
I mean,
So
you
you're
don't know what could
swerving to-
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, you give it a slight swerve.
There could be a pedestrian walking or something that you didn't.
Yeah, there's no
see.
pedestrian.
Well, you don't know that.
Yeah, you do know that because you have eyeballs. I don't
Well,
know
if
if
you
I don't
don't
know if
see
I do,
them-
but when I'm
if
driving,
you
I can
don't
see
see them.
pedestrians.
There's blind spots. There's tons of.
Yeah,
things
that's a
going on.
condition of driving, period. I could not see a pedestrian, I guess, who's right in front of me,
Okay,
too.
but if you're purposely swerving to kill an innocent animal for no reason, I think
Innocent?
that's pretty unnecessary.
Innocent. Raccoons are
Now we're
killers.
debating the innocence of a squirrel instead of
and-
talking
and
about the
innocent-
question of the debate.
innocent
Raccoons are
versus-
murdering
innocent-
psychopaths.
Innocent versus like a bear that's
No,
going
wait
to
a
kill
second.
you.
I
Like,
am helping society. raccoons are psychopathic lunatics who steal, they rob, they kill with wild abandon, they kill chickens, they steal eggs, they put families' livelihoods at risk. I am doing my part as a member of the community. What we have done is we have decided to play a game in order to help keep the population of these fucking vermin down. And so when you see one, you smack them, you take them out, right? And it helps thin them out. And so what we did was we took this trait that you would consider to be violent or
I live in the
psychopathic.
city.
Hang on.
I walk up to raccoons like on a daily basis.
You don't
They're
walk up to
not-
raccoons
they're
in this city. But anyway,
Are you kidding? They're
yeah, take a
literally in
video
the
next
street
time.
everywhere.
Yeah, you go pet a raccoon, take a video next
I
time.
don't
But anyway,
pet them.
yeah,
I'm not
anyway,
against
so
hunting or
so let me finish my point. My point is that so what? Here's what happens because these things are such a plague, right? What we do out here in the country is we play a little game, right? Where we kill the shit out of these little bastards every time we see them. Huge social good, by the way. Helps preserve people's livelihoods. Helps keep chickens alive. Helps keep their eggs intact, right? But
I dare you to let me build you a completely free e-commerce store preloaded with 20 handpicked products that are trending all over the world, basically validated by AI from a trending product database from one of the
from your view, it would be toxic as fuck, even though it actually serves a greater purpose, right? Serves a greater purpose. And what I'm saying by necessary social carnage is you don't understand that portion of why men's behavior is this way. Men's behavior is not always altogether apparent to women who don't see
Andrew,
the bigger picture, or let me finish, or feminine men who don't see the bigger picture, don't understand that men can use what you consider to be toxic masculinity is actually social carnage, which is good for society generally.
Mm-hmm. You said
And
that
it exists.
3 times. But you literally said
Social
the reason you
carnage
were
exists.
doing it, the reason you were running over the raccoon wasn't for society goodness or to help the chicken and the eggs and shit. It was to get 10 points and
Yeah.
laugh at your wife who yelled at you.
Yeah, but it still serves a greater purpose. So what? So what if I enjoy
That's
the
not a
process
reason.
of running the little bastard over? What does that have to do with
You're
anything?
just adding on other things to try to make it seem
To try to
necessary.
explain to you that the things that you consider to be toxic actually serve a greater good. Same thing with aggression in men. Same thing with men who are willing to commit to violence for various actions at various times, even though you think it might not be justified because you may hurt your feelings. Let me ask you this, Ghosty. If you were out with your boyfriend, right, and a guy walked over and he started calling you a bunch of names. Let's say he called you like just the most horrible shit you could imagine, but he didn't touch you. He didn't touch you, he didn't put his hands on you. Should your boyfriend defend your honor?
It's honestly not even worth it.
He shouldn't defend your honor?
I mean, it depends on the situation, but in most cases, I would say it's just not worth it to get into these. Like,
So what if the guy looks at him and he says, "You're not even going to protect your woman's honor? I could just talk to her like this, bro?"
Yeah, our egos aren't that. We don't care. We'll just walk
So
away
your
and go have a
boyfriend
good
wouldn't?
time.
Yeah, I don't know that
care.
like the idea
No.
that like not engaging in violence in that situation is like a
Okay.
shameful thing. I think is
Hang on. That's totally fair.
embarrassing. Like,
Totally fair.
You're giving the control over to that guy who's like trying
Yeah.
to provoke you. Like
I get it,
a
Ryan.
Minded thing to do,
Ryan, I get it. So I'll just ask you the same
Apparently not, I
question.
don't know.
Let's say that Ghosty is your girlfriend, okay? And you were out with her on the town. And some guy was just being horrible to her, calling her all sorts of names, besmirching her honor. Would you-
I've been out in the
Would you
town
do,
with women.
Ryan, would you do something?
Yes.
Would you do something about it?
Yes, I speak up when I'm in situations like that. Yes,
You're going to speak up,
yes.
but that could lead to violence, right?
It could if someone else initiates it, but I'm less likely to.
Yeah, but hang on, you just speaking up can initiate violence, Ryan. Like if
That's
you
why
hadn't
I
said
said it
anything, if you hadn't said anything, wait, how's you speaking up going to defuse violence?
It doesn't necessarily, but it can. I'm pretty. I don't know. I've been in a lot of situations where I've been pretty decent at de-escalating the situation. I think a good amount of emotional intelligence can help with that. So that's another thing.
Emotional
That's why I
intelligence.
said it depends. You have to be able to read the situation. Like, is this person super drunk and they seem like they're trying to start a fight, or are they just like walking by and saying shit? And you can tell, you can like say something back. And
What if he
they're
grabbed her
probably
ass,
just keep
Ryan?
walking.
What if he was walking by and he grabbed her ass? What would you do then?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure. You're not sure what you would do if a guy went over and grabbed your woman's ass. You're not sure what you would do.
I might get in his
I'd
face.
probably smack him.
Yeah. Well, here's the
I'd rather
thing.
be
Here's the thing,
smacked
right?
than
Let me just ask you this last question, and then I'll submit myself to your inquiry. Do you think that a woman who you're out with, who gets her ass grabbed by a random guy, she turns around, is confronting him, and you aren't sure what to do, and another guy walks over and says, "Hey, fucker," and lays his ass out, who do you think she's going home with that night, Ryan? You or that guy?
Probably still me.
You are, for the record,
I
Ryan.
mean,
you are-
I've never been in a
Ryan-
situation where I felt like
Yeah,
my relationship with a
But for the record,
partner
Ryan,
was going to change in one
Yeah.
quick moment because
For
of
the record-
an assault.
yeah. For the record, though, Ryan, you are single, right?
Currently, yeah, but I spent like 10 years not being single.
Mm-hmm.
And I do also, Neo, you're an excellent partner for Andrew, letting him take all the mic time. But I do want to let you know you can chime in at any time, and if you want to engage, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I actually wanted to ask Ghosty a question based off of her opening statement. Some of your descriptions for toxic masculinity, I felt lent themselves to general human traits as a whole. For example, you use the example of cheating and wanting to know somebody's location on their phone. Is that something that's solely a masculine trait, or do women exhibit those same behaviors as well?
No, it's not solely masculine. So I added on that if a guy is doing this for the reason of like to prove his manhood, or because if a guy has if a guy is cheating on women, that doesn't necessarily mean it's like toxic masculinity, but once he's doing it because he's like, well, I'm a man and this is just what men do and I'm allowed to do this because I'm a man, that would be toxic masculinity. And same with the possessiveness. If a guy feels like he has to be possessive over his woman because he feels like, I'm the man, I can't have other, like she can't hang out with other guys or have like guy friends or.
Yeah, but do women exhibit those same traits?
Yeah, and they could be seen, that could be done under toxic femininity too.
So it's not predominantly a male thing, right?
It's not only men, no.
Okay, so, but in the context in which you were using it in your opening statement, it was a part of what you would consider toxic masculinity to be.
If he's doing it to like prove his masculinity or display his manlyhood or something like that, yeah.
Do you believe that men as a whole are toxic?
No.
Okay. Do you feel safe when you walk down the street?
Style and substance. In the GMC Sierra. Or get a total...
I mean, I'm kind of like more of like a careless person. I've been in like a lot of situations, so I just don't really care as much. Usually I feel safe. There are sometimes I don't feel safe depending on the situation, but I do feel safer with a guy with me, yeah.
Okay, because sometimes I feel that when people are describing traits of what quote-unquote toxic masculinity, there's a lot of things that get lost in the shuffle. You're basically saying that this is inherent in who they are and their personalities, but yeah, sure, men might be quicker to violence than women, but women also have their own traits. For example, their innuendo, reputation, destruction. These are things how they can exhibit them being upset at somebody. They might key your car instead of cheating on you, or they might cheat back on you for revenge as well. So I just feel like lumping those traits together, I think of it more as toxic people rather than toxic masculinity, because there are people that are inherently toxic, but to kind of put it all in the category of men, I just think doesn't really seem to be realistic.
Well, I did say there is toxic femininity too, but I think what makes it either toxic masculinity or toxic femininity is when they're doing it based on like their gender. So they're doing it to like as a display of their like manliness, or to be seen as more of a man, or to prove their manhood in like that sort of sense. If you're doing these things because it's like, I'm a man, or I'm a woman, so this is what I can get away with, or something kind of thing like that, or a more inherent trait to a certain gender, and then using those traits in a toxic way, that's what I would categorize as toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. But of course there's toxic just like human behavior, but yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to add that I think I'm open to like a conversation about whether or not like toxic masculinity is like a productive term for what's being identified. But I think at the core that's being argued is like the things that are being identified by this phrase, by like scholars who write about this stuff. Like these are like real things
What scholars?
that are being examined. I mean, we could look at the APA. I mean, if you want like specific names,
So it's an argument ad populum. Can you logically
sure.
demonstrate it?
I mean, you can call it that, but again, like whatever your issues are with.
I'll tell you what. I'll make it empirical. Hang on, I'll make it empirical then.
Whatever your issues are with the research, all I'm saying is there are people identifying these things, and if we agree they exist, they're just not exclusive to men. That's fine. I don't mind that.
No, I'm not sure that the nature of them being toxic, which would be bad, right? Toxic would be bad, right? Yeah, so that's my dispute. Yeah, that's my dispute. I don't think that these behaviors are bad, Ryan. So no, we actually don't just disagree on the semantics. We disagree on whether or not the toxic, which would be bad, that these are even bad behaviors. So let's start with this.
You think sexual assault is bad?
Oh my God, dude. Okay, I'll tell you what. Are you sexually assaulting?
Sexual assault is bad?
Depends on how you define it.
Are you gonna answer the question? Do you think sexual assault is bad? You don't need to define sexual assault.
Well, do you know why I need you to? I'll explain why.
Because you're thinking I'm loading in like some
No, nothing. I don't even think it's loaded. Let me just explain myself. A woman told me.
Then maybe like
a woman told me, a Marxist feminist told me, if my wife woke me up with a blowjob, that was sexual assault. Ryan, is that sexual assault?
I would not identify that as sexual assault.
Do you understand why I would want you to define and tell me what you mean by that term?
I'd be surprised. I'm surprised that you think I would think that's sexual assault. So
it doesn't matter what you're surprised about. It's that good rationality for me to ask you how you would define the term, so that I make sure that I know what I'm agreeing to or not agreeing to.
Yeah, I think it is fair.
You can imagine the worst case scenario.
Unconsensual sexual.
My wife waking me up with a blowjob. That would be inconsensual, right?
See, this is like I mean, like, do you think that sexual assault is a real thing? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know what you mean by it. I don't know what you mean by it.
I think a man and wife
give me examples of what you mean by it, and then I can answer your question, Ryan.
I'm asking by your own standard, by your own definition, even.
Okay, so you want my definition of sexual assault?
I'm just asking. You don't have to give it. I'm just saying, by your definition, would you say that some sexual assault is bad at least?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Okay. Do you think there's any manifestations of sexual assault that are related to men viewing women as, or feeling entitled to women?
Sure.
Okay, I would say that's toxic masculinity.
That's nice. I would say that it's sexual assault, based on based on an individualistic category. But what would qualify that as toxic masculinity and not just sexual assault?
Because it's related. This is what Ghosty's been getting at. It's related to their perception of themselves and their manhood, and their manhood being viewing that in relation to women, and then they're feeling entitled to that woman's body to the point where they assault her. And it's not very complicated logic, to be honest.
I see. So when you're saying toxic masculinity, it's when a man does anything bad, which is also in relation to any masculine qualities that you assign to him.
More so that can you say that again? I don't know if I agree with the exact framing, but just repeat it for me.
Many masculine characteristics or qualities that you assign to a man, and then they do bad thing, and those qualities are some way in there, or bad things that they do.
If those things are driving them, if they're like manhood is like the thing that they feel entitles them to that person, I would say that is, yeah, that's the example of what people identify as toxic masculinity, which again you seem to say can be completely redefined as social carnage. I'm not sure if it works in that context exactly, but
Ryan, what is the actual prompt for the debate? Can you tell me?
Is toxic masculinity real?
Yeah. Brian, can I ask you, are gender roles real?
Are they real things that manifest in society? Yes.
Well, are they real though?
And probably have some biological core to a lot of them, yeah.
Okay, that seems completely fair to me. So gender roles to you are real, and they manifest somewhat from innate biology, right? Is that right?
That's what we just okay.
I'm just clarifying. I'm trying to be as good faith as possible. Ryan, do you want to abolish gender roles?
I want to abolish the imposition of gender roles. I don't care about people expressing their gender. I like my gender. I like feeling masculine myself.
So if something can be changed, it's just a social construct, right? Like gender.
I mean, I don't think like social construct means infinitely malleable. I don't think those are what. Yeah.
What else could it mean? It's construction of the mind. If you can
Right,
change
money
it,
is a
it's
social construct, but it still has.
and you
like
can change it.
Yeah, but based on
change its value
not by
constantly.
yourself. Like I can't decide that a $1 bill is worth $100. You know, or like,
You could if you were by yourself.
okay, sure.
Yeah, so it's a social construction. So I just got to ask you this then, Ryan. If it is the case that gender itself is something that you want to abolish, right? And you don't think that is
No,
masculinity?
again, I said the imposition. The imposition.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yes, that's not what I
Is
said.
masculinity gender?
Yes.
It is gender.
Do you think I want to abolish masculinity?
No. I'm just asking if can women be masculine? Biological women be
Yeah, of
masculine?
course. Yeah.
So can biological women engage in toxic masculinity?
Yeah, sure.
They can.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me how a woman could engage in toxic a biological woman.
Well, I mean, there's kind of two angles to it. The first could be that she's viewing, like, I would say that her relationship to like the men around her, like encouraging them to view their masculinity in a particular way that is harmful to her and other people around him. And then also it could be, I guess when you said biological woman, I assume you also would include like trans men there, and that their perspective of being a man like trans men express toxic masculinity as well, for sure. So
So women and men can both be toxically masculine?
They can both contribute to toxic masculinity, no doubt.
Both of them can be toxically masculine.
Yeah, I mean, what you would call biological women and I would call trans men is what I'm because it's related to the identity. Their like identity of being a man is like the thing that we're talking about is driving them to exhibit some behavior, right?
So like, I innately feel like I'm a man, and I'd be viewed as less of a man if I was a trans man if I didn't like essay this chick. That would be.
I mean, that's a very reductive way to put it, but I guess you can say that.
Okay, got it. So I just got to ask, isn't it the case then that all you're actually doing is you're just assigning any bad behavior? Like, what would bad behaviors be that a man?
Not just any bad behavior.
But hang on. I just want to distinguish this. What bad behaviors could there be that men could exhibit that would have nothing to do with them being men?
I think most of the things that we've discussed, like if they're not manifesting because of their relationship with their own masculinity, then that would be not necessarily.
How could you know that though? Like, I would say that you could not divide masculinity from man because it's part of man's ontology. So isn't every bad behavior a man engages in also going to be a masculine behavior because it's a man doing it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I don't know how that follows then. I can't not be man, right? There's no way for me to not be.
You can do whatever you want to be, Andrew.
But there's no way for me to not be male, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then the fact that I'm a male and I do something bad, how do I disassociate thing male, which also governs behavior of me, from thing?
It's about whether or not you're trying to manifest your perception of that manhood in an action.
That would be every action I took.
Okay, well,
wouldn't that be every action everybody takes? Would have to be a manifestation of them, their physiology, their mentality based on physiology as well, would manifest into all behaviors everybody took.
I think it's about your mindset.
Now it's about mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was like it's been like part of the
was it?
Maybe I can offer a translation. I don't think that translated well. So Ryan, for instance, he's using a some not all argument. So basically, like, all apples can be fruits, but not all fruits will be apples, right? So what he's saying is like, if you're saying toxic masculinity, then you're saying all men are toxic, because it's the some not all, if that helps.
We're not saying that, right? Like, I mean, just
Neither.
Here's why I'm trying to make the disassociation. I'm trying to like untangle this mess because it's a fucking mess. If a guy, I think I can understand from your perspective when you say a guy feels like his manhood's threatened, so he has to essay some chick. That's an example of toxic masculinity, right? That would be correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if a guy just has really high adrenaline and the guy grabs his woman's ass and knocks him out? Is that toxic masculinity?
Not necessarily.
That's probably
Is that-
toxic behavior. Though.
Is that action good though?
No, it's toxic
different
behavior, but
question.
it's not coming from toxic masculinity, I guess.
Okay, but the reason you would expect that a man would do that before a woman would, right?
I mean, honestly, I know a lot of women who assault men pretty often. And
Yeah, no,
actually, I would say,
go out a lot.
I would
Well,
say
what
that's
was the
toxic femininity because women feel like they can get away with that. And
What was
feel
the point of
they can
bringing
do
up
that.
SA earlier then?
Yeah, I
If
don't
you're
think
not attributing it primarily to men.
yeah. Good
Well, I
question.
didn't attribute it.
No, you didn't. Ryan
Primary.
brought it up, so I guess I'm asking Ryan. You asked
I
about
was saying,
in SA, right?
yeah, and I was just saying that in relation to like when men feel entitled to a woman's body because they're a man, like that's again it comes back to that because they're viewing it through the lens of their masculinity specifically.
Okay, so because they feel entitled, you're considering it. All right, you're considering it SA if a man feels entitled to a woman's body and he actually does something about it, right? Am I getting that correct?
Wait, can you say? I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
All right, you're saying that it's SA if a man feels entitled to a woman's body and he, actually does something about it rather than just keeping it in his own thoughts, right?
I mean, it would be if he against her will, and it's like, yeah. I mean,
Okay,
I feel like
and-
you're removing something from it when you said.
No. I'm asking for clarification. I'm just trying to get what you actually said. And all right, if you flip the coin on the other side, right? If a woman tries to essay a man because she feels entitled to him, and if he doesn't reciprocate, she'll call him gay or whatever the case may be, which is usually what happens. Would you consider that her being toxic or it just being a crabby human being?
Yeah, I think we just go ahead.
I would say that's toxic femininity. That's an
I agree.
example of toxic femininity.
Okay, but
and not only that, but she's leveraging his toxic masculinity, or his perspective. I don't want to be gay, like that. She's leveraging that by being toxic and through her femininity to make him do stuff he doesn't.
Yeah, I'm still confused. I'm actually still
Calling
confused
a guy
about
gay
this
because he doesn't want to
semantically.
sleep with you is weaponizing his masculinity in there. And
Yeah, I get that. I think I understand the distinction and why you have to say there's toxic femininities. You don't want to hold a dual standard here, but I actually still don't really.
make it real.
Yeah, but I still don't really understand it because it seems to me like any bad action which would be associated with maleness could easily fit into this category of toxic masculinity.
It's
which
about
would include-
motive. The motive is what you're missing, I think.
Yeah, but not really because couldn't my motive necessarily change just by my sex not being male?
What do you mean by that?
Meaning that if I was born a female, maybe I wouldn't knock the guy out who I knocked out.
Okay.
So wouldn't that be associated with the fact that I'm a man to begin with?
You think no, because not all guys
Well, I don't know how
knock
you-
people out.
Yeah, I think that the attribution, though, of everything everybody does is tied into physiology. It's tied into how your brain operates, how your body operates, various chemicals which are always pumping through them. I could easily make the counter case that a man who goes and robs a bank because he just has a lot of really high testosterone, for instance,
So
right?
you mean a deterministic argument?
We were
You don't
able to
believe in free
correlate it.
will?
We were able to correlate it, right? Well, no, I'm doing an internal critique. What does that have to do with my view? So anyway, why couldn't you easily just as soon attribute every action from a man who had too much testosterone, for instance, robbing a bank? Why is that not toxic masculinity? You say it's because there's a motive which determines it. But it's like, but it's maleness itself which could have led to the motive itself. Like if he didn't have that high of a testosterone, he never would have committed X crime. That seems to be a masculine trait, and it seems to be tied. Hang on, and it seems to be tied to his maleness. So if that's the case, why is that not toxic masculinity? I still don't actually get that.
Because it doesn't have to be tied to your maleness. It could also be tied to how much money you have or some circumstance you're in or something like that. It doesn't have to be tied to your gender. But if you tie it to your gender, if you're like, oh well, I'm allowed to get away with bad behavior because I'm a man, that's what men do, like this is just what guys do, boys will be boys kind of thing, then that is an example of toxic masculinity. If you're
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, but again,
over and over this whole time.
Yeah, I understand that you keep making the distinction, but it doesn't make sense to me because it just seems like all of this would just tie back to, again, physiology, behavioral patterns between men and women. You just tie any bad behavior which a man does over a woman that's more common as being toxic masculinity, and that would fit the criteria for what you consider toxic masculinity to be. And I'll read it to you so that you know I'm correct about this. Here is what your definition was that you gave me. The definition was, quote, this is why I always take notes, by the way, behaviors or traits which are masculine used in an unhealthy way. Okay, but when we're talking about behaviors or traits which are used in an unhealthy way, I would consider all of those to be tied to things like sex to begin with, right? Otherwise, how are you determining what's masculine or feminine to begin with? They're associated by your own admission to sex. So if that's the case, if you're tying masculinity in this definition to sex itself, and then you claim anything which is a negative, that's definitionally true. I'll read you the definition again, Ryan.
No, I understand. I think what's happening is this is the manifestation of your inability or unwillingness, really is a more apt term for it. Unwillingness to engage with like what gender identity is and how that's different from biological sex. Like you can't separate.
You just said Ryan. I'm using your definition.
But I think what we're distinguishing is your internal view of your masculinity and how that relates to the action. Like I guess, like Neo, can you check?
That's not what the definition. Can I read?
I'm curious. Can I ask your debate partner? He hasn't talked very much.
I know, but I just want to get this cleared up.
Gentlemen, I'd like.
Yeah, that's great.
I'd like
But I want to
Go ahead
finish.
and let Andrew finish reading the definition, and then Ryan, you're welcome to inquire with me.
It's behaviors or traits which are masculine used in an unhealthy way. That is extraordinarily vague. And I feel like I could basically categorize any fucking thing that a man does that is bad into that. So, for instance, a behavior or trait which is masculine. Well, this is going to be societally determined, yeah? What is masculine?
I thought you were done after you read the definition. Are we?
No, I'm not done with the inquiry yet. Stop trying to fucking divert. I'd like to finish the inquiry. Maybe Ghosty can do it because you're spurging too much, Ryan. But anyway.
Behaviors or traits that are inherently masculine used in a toxic, unhealthy, or negative way.
Yeah, what is a trait that's inherently masculine?
So things like, I will say, I feel like guys have a more, like a higher sex drive. They have more testosterone, which makes them more, they do have higher tendencies for being aggressive, and killing, stuff like that. And
so wait a
second.
So wait a second. So we get this right. Men have higher testosterone and they kill more. Those would be things which are inherently masculine. So that if a man kills somebody, that's toxic masculinity?
Again, you're missing the motive. So
the definition doesn't say shit about motive. It says inherently masculine. That's your definition. Hers.
Yeah, so, and
Whose
then
definition
after
should
that,
use but hers, bro?
After that, it says being used. So being, like, used. So,
Yeah, being used.
That's, like, the motive. So if
I
you're
agree.
using these inherent masculine traits in a toxic way,
And an inherent masculine trait for you would be testosterone. That's what you just
well,
said.
testosterone can cause traits that are inherently masculine, right?
Well, okay, well then what's an inherently masculine trait?
I just gave you 2 examples.
So testosterone was one, right?
I give you aggression and hypersexuality.
Aggression is a masculine trait.
I'd say that it's not to say that women can't be aggressive, but I would say that men are more likely to be aggressive or show.
So anytime a man,
yeah.
So then by your definition, then anytime a man is aggressive, right? That is toxic masculinity. It has to be definitionally.
If he's doing it to prove this.
Show me in your definition where it says that.
Okay, maybe I didn't write the definition perfectly. I wrote it today. If you want me to add on, I further in my opening statement, I said, remember, in order for these behaviors or tendencies to fit toxic masculinity category, they need to be done by a man specifically because he believes this behavior is connected to his manhood in some way. So
Yeah, but
and
so
my
this
first
is what I meant.
definition
Yeah.
was actually acting on toxic or unhealthy behaviors to prove or display masculinity.
Yeah, so what you did,
I
so
had
here's
two
what you did, and this is what I predicted in my opening statement. In order to make this definitionally true, you added qualifiers to your own definition that you gave me because that was the only, so I can do the same thing, okay? Toxic masculinity is any man that's missing a tooth. That's a man who's toxically masculine. Prove me wrong.
That's fine. I don't think I can. But so, Neo Starling, I'm curious.
No, no, stop,
you
stop, Ryan. I'm talking to.
No, actually, I don't need to stop.
Can I finish? Can I finish the inquiry? Ryan,
You're not my king.
Ryan, can I finish the inquiry? We're right at the end. We're right at the end, Ryan. I just want my last question answered, Ryan. That's it. Ghosty, can you prove me wrong?
I'm taking a break from you.
Every man who's missing a tooth is toxically masculine. Can you prove that wrong?
Well, what's your definition? You would have to give me.
I just gave it to you. Every man who's missing a tooth is toxically masculine. That's what toxic masculinity is.
Yeah. If you define it that way, then yeah, sure, that's fine. So Neo, do you
Can you let her answer? Ryan,
stop
talking fucking Ryan. Let her finish.
Sorry, go ahead and answer the question about tooth and masculinity.
Yeah.
The definition is that toxic masculinity is men who don't have teeth.
Men who are missing a tooth.
Men who are missing a tooth.
Can you prove me wrong?
That would mean it exists, though, right? If you define it that way.
I don't think it has to do with toxicity, so it just doesn't really compute.
What do you mean it doesn't have to do with toxicity? That's weird.
Missing a tooth.
Yeah, but I think that, it rubs me the wrong way when men are missing a tooth, and so I think that that's inherently toxic because it affects me negatively.
Okay, I also gave my definition for toxic in this context. I said I'm using it to describe something that is detrimental, damaging, or hurtful to oneself or others.
Yeah, that's true. That definition can stand on its own fine until you use your other definition, which explains what toxic masculinity means, which is not the same as the word toxic. So in this case, why can't I just make a semantic distinction and come up with the same type of proprietary definition you are, and then you would have to just concede, well, I can't prove that wrong, right? So this is why it's important for us to get the semantics out of the way. I was trying to do that in the beginning, but for some reason, Ryan thinks that talking about semantics is a trap, even though it's the only way you can have discourse, right? So. What we should do is we should have unpacked the semantics to begin with, so we could look at your definition. Because when I just looked at your definition, you added a bunch of proprietary shit to it post-definition to make it true. And it's like, you can just do that with anything, though. Do you understand that now? You can do that with anything and then say, because that's how I proprietarily define it, therefore it's true, debate over. It's like, no, that's not how it works. I need to know what your proof is that these behaviors are toxic and come from the inherent masculine features of a man. That's what I need to know.
Okay, so there are, I can list some authors who write about toxic masculinity, right? Like E.H. Thompson, I believe is one, Springer. These are, and when they talk about it, they use definitions that describe things that men, or actions that men take on behalf of what they feel they should do as men. And so this is again, the core of what we've been discerning, which is why I'm just curious. I want to ask Neo, if you'll let me, Andrew, if you'll give me permission to ask your debate partner a question.
I told you when I was done with my inquiry. Are
you now, or are we doing another?
Yeah, we were done.
What's up, Ryan?
Okay. You've been spurting for the last 5 minutes. No one's interrupted you.
It's all yours.
I'm just curious. Do you recognize the distinction that we're making between something that just a man does that's bad, or them doing an action because they view that that's how men are supposed to act?
I mean, you'd have to look at it societally because men inherently, if we're to use the example of men having more testosterone in their bodies than women, right? And because of that, they're more sexually aggressive or whatever the case may be. That is something that's inherent to us, but what was I going to say? Testosterone is also utilized, to build muscle, to build drive within another human being, to drive us to do the things that we do. So even though you might look at that as a negative trait at times, women and men alike both attribute these same characteristics when it comes to trying to mate a partner. If a woman is hitting on a man, for example, and he's not down. Again, I used the example earlier about him being treated as a homosexual because of that. And a man might, maybe had a few drinks in the system, or he probably got his pride hurt, and he thought that, hey, you know what, this isn't good. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. Those I would attribute to just people being crappy human beings as a whole. Like that's what. All right, the whole idea of toxic masculinity.
I'm sorry. The pride comment, how it hurt his pride. Can you elaborate on that part of it?
Well, pride is also not just a masculine trait. It's a human being trait. You know what I mean? We all have pride. Your feelings can get hurt, and you felt that something was unjustified, whether it had to do with talking to another human being, or you failed a test. You probably thought you could have scored a higher grade, but you didn't. These things are traits of people as a whole. It doesn't matter whether you are a man or a woman in this particular situation. So the idea
totally
that
agree.
yeah, so all right, let me ask you a question. If your boy comes up to you, right? He's a man. He's not a woman. He doesn't identify as anything other than a man, right? And he comes up to you and he says, "Hey, you know what? I bought this new shirt today, man. How does it look on me, right?" And you think, in your heart of hearts, it looks horrible. It was one size too short. His belly is sticking out of the sides, and you tell him, "Hey, man, that shirt looks crappy on you. You need to lose a couple of pounds so that you can fit in that shirt properly." Do you think you're being toxic when you are telling him that, or do you think you're just expressing a truth to him so that you don't hurt his feelings?
I guess it depends. I'm not
I don't
sure.
think that's toxic. And again, it depends how you say it. I guess if you're just being an asshole about it.
No. I mean,
It depends on your relationship with that person.
This is your boy.
I would say that to your friends, I wouldn't, right?
And this is just how you talk to your friends, right?
Yeah. Then that's not toxic. No.
Okay, now if you flip the shoe on the other foot and a woman brought a dress and it didn't fit her, and her homegirls were like, "Hey, girl, that looks great on you. Go out to the club and do your thing." Do you think the women in that case did a service to their friend by telling them that it looks great, even though they knew it didn't look good on them, or because they worded it in a certain way, now it's justified? So which one was toxic?
It could both be toxic in different ways, right? But sorry,
okay, but is that inherently a trait of men just being mean? Because men talk to each other this way.
So do women. That's kind of the silly thing, though.
Is it silly? If you really stop and think about it, is it silly? Because we're talking about traits that are inherent to us that make us treat people a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can I push it back up? Because it's not necessarily that. What we're saying is the perception. If you perceive a certain trait, if you're engaging in an action because you think it's inherent to men, you think men are supposed to do that. And that trait is also being considered toxic. That's where we're identifying it. It's about your relationship to the view of masculinity, right? Or in femininity, because women are supposed to do X, Y, and Z. But not all women do that thing, and not all men do that thing. So it's not inherently male to do either of those things. It's just we're identifying you doing those things in the context of feeling like that's what men are supposed to do.
So an example close to this of toxic femininity would be a bunch of girls who don't like another girl, and she's like, "Hey, do you like my shirt?" And they're all trying to fuck with her because they're like, "Oh yeah, it looks great on you. You should totally go out in that." And they know it looks horrible. That's, I think, would be a toxic feminine trait. I could see that because they're using women's attractiveness and beauty against them, which is more of a feminine trait. Women use attractiveness and looks that they have a higher value, I guess, in society. So that would be a toxic feminine trait. But from my experience, most girlfriends who are actually close to each other, if your girl puts on something ugly, you're like, "No, you're not wearing that. Let's find you something better."
Yeah, but I don't really consider that toxic femininity. I just consider that you just not being a very nice person. You get what I'm saying? The idea that you're inherently...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the idea that you're inherently toxic just because of whatever chromosomes your body seems to possess, and because societally, you were told that you're supposed to be a certain way, and if not, you're going to be a bad human being. I don't really believe in that. I just think that there are people that are okay human beings, and there are those that are crappy. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you fall under. We're two sides of the same coin.
But nobody's saying you're inherently toxic because you're masculine or because you're feminine. it's using inherent masculine or feminine traits in a negative way.
What
Yeah,
about
but why
domestic
shouldn't we
violence?
just? Why shouldn't we just? Because these traits are all shared between the sexes, all of them. The propensity for all whatever you would consider to be masculine traits, and whatever you would consider. Otherwise, you wouldn't be trans advocates. So you would have to equalize. You'd have to say both sexes have the propensity for these traits equally across the board, right? At least some propensity for it. Now you could say based on sex, you have higher testosterone. You have this. I agree with all that. But if it is the case, why shouldn't we just individualize it and just say, that's toxic behavior and leave masculinity and femininity out of it completely? Why should we accept this definition instead of a much more useful and broad category of this behavior itself is bad, regardless of who's engaging in it? And what does that have to do with the masculine or the feminine? By your worldview, actually, that would be a much better definition.
I agree, but again, it's because of the motive. So if people are doing something to prove their manliness, or to prove, or because it's like a feminine.
Yeah, but why use the loaded term? Why can't we just say, that's bad, don't do it? Why should we accept that that's toxic masculinity, or this term of toxic masculinity, because you added as a proprietary definition,
Well, I think
rather than us just rejecting that and saying that there's some universal behaviors which are preferable from people, and this isn't one of them? Why should we ascribe this as a behavior at all? Tell me what the case use here is, why it's so useful, why we should utilize this over his definition, which is you're just a shitty person, or you just did a bad thing as a person. Why should we put these loaded terms in the ethos of that?
To be clear, I'm certainly not asserting that like you have to embrace this term. I don't expect you to start using the term toxic masculinity, Andrew. All I'm saying is that like people do use this term.
That's not my question.
To describe.
That's not what we're talking
to describe
about.
the thing that we're talking about here, and like
You're not engaging with what I'm saying.
We're identifying and that they're identifying is a real thing, and we seem to. I think we all agree it is a real thing.
I don't think we all agree. We're not talking about the same thing.
Yeah, it seems like you don't want to actually talk about it.
We're not talking about the same thing. We're talking past each other. All I've been doing is trying to bring the clarity. Go ahead, Ghost. Maybe you can bring clarity.
Because ideally, in my ideal world, where there is like less like genderization, I don't know if that's a word, but the less like breaking everything down into like gendered boxes, I think it would be an ideal world where we could just say that's a toxic trait, blah, 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 blah. But in today's world, we do genderize things. So there are lots of people who act a certain way because they have these old, I don't know the word for it. They have these old thoughts in their head that's like, I'm supposed to behave this way because I am a man. I'm supposed to behave this way because I am a woman. And some of these traits can be toxic and unhealthy and hurt themselves and hurt other people. So because we live in this world today, if people are perpetuating these actions and just deeming them masculine or feminine, and then they're acting toxically or unhealthily,
But that makes
badly.
But that makes my point for me. So if you want to live in a world where you think that there's less gender allocation for things,
Yeah, I want to live in that world, but we don't
but
right
then,
now.
but okay, yeah, I get it descriptively, but you want to, so we ought to live in that world. So descriptively, if that's the world you want to live in, I would think you would be trying to reduce loaded terms. Like you would agree with me that this term has been hijacked by feminists for all sorts of other proprietary definitions other than your proprietary definition, right?
Sure, by radical feminists, right?
And tons of people use it in tons of different ways and very loaded ways, right?
Mhm.
Okay, got it. So the thing is like, if that is the case, and you want to move towards a world where that's not the case, why the fuck would you advocate its use? Why would you advocate its use instead of advocating against its use?
I'm addressing reality. I'm addressing that there are people who act in bad ways because they think their gender entitles them to act this way.
Yes, but there's no reason for us to put the term masculinity, especially by your definition, which is inherent masculinity, inherent masculine traits, whatever those are. You say you name two, one's testosterone, this and that. It's so broad that you can encompass so many behaviors in it, so subjective those behaviors you can encompass into it. I would think if you'd want to move to a gender-free society, you would want to remove those things to begin with. It doesn't make any sense why you want to keep using the loaded terms.
I would think since you don't want to move to a genderless society, that you would be on our side and you would be wanting to use this term.
Why?
Because for exactly the same reason. You don't
Yeah, I
have a
don't
genderless
think,
society,
I don't
right?
believe
So
that the
therefore,
things that
shouldn't.
you can, consider, so you gave some extreme examples of what you consider to be toxic masculinity, for instance, right? You say a man, essays a woman based on some perceived
He needs to prove
idea.
his manhood. He needs to fuck women.
Why don't
because
you
he
give
doesn't
me,
feel
or
like he's
feels
a man.
entitled, hang on, so now we have the most extreme. Yeah, so now we have the most extreme. Give me the least, yeah, got it. Give me the least extreme. What's the least extreme version of toxic masculinity?
Let me see.
I mean, it could be being very domineering in a conversation because you think that you need to demonstrate your masculinity through performative conversational cruelty.
Yeah, or I think even like the
Ryan, were you just trying to say that I was being mean to you?
I'm saying I'm talking about a thing that I do also. I mean, but yes, I'm pointing to you. But yeah, I mean, I also engage. I'm also not saying that I never.
I'm sorry that you engage in those. Sorry, you engage in those behaviors.
Like I have a relationship. With
anyway, I was asking Ghosty. She seems to be reasonable and willing to engage and not spurred. But anyway, Ghosty, go ahead.
I don't think it's spurring.
All right, I'm trying to let the woman speak, Ryan. You're being very toxically masculine right now, Ryan. Go ahead.
Hey, let her talk now.
So yeah, like hazing is an example. Men, and somebody wrote this in my chat, men in groups trying to like do stupid things to like one up each other, or like I one time I went on like a motorbike with a guy and I like told him, I was like, please do not fucking speed, it's not gonna impress me, like I don't think it's cool, like please don't kill me, like don't. And he starts like going crazy, going like 120 miles per hour. I'm like on, like it was fucking scary. Like guys do these things to try to impress people.
So because it's
to be seen as more of a man or whatever. And I think that's
okay.
toxic.
So I just want to make sure I can break this down very quickly. So if your motivation is to engage in like one-upping the other men who are around you, especially through the idea of hazing and in-group preference and things like that, that would be toxic masculinity.
If they're doing it to be seen as like more of a man.
Yeah, like team sports.
No, I don't think team sports are toxic.
What if your whole point of you wanting to score more points and haze the people who are around you and things like this is because it's perceived by everybody as being more manly.
If you're playing a sport and that makes you feel more like a man, that's not, playing sports isn't toxic. So therefore, it's just not toxic.
Yeah, but but you realize that they haze each other consistently and constantly in team sports.
Well, hazing is different. Hazing is different than playing a sport, right?
No, but as part of male camaraderie and building relationships with men, hazing is a necessary part of being in groups. It happens everywhere. Yeah, it's necessary.
I think if you want to use football as an example, men are tackling each other all day long. They also smack each other's butts, which I believe was used as an example earlier. So I think
some examples of hazing might be getting way too drunk, right? That's a pretty bad thing, right? Examples of hazing might be to kind of ritualistically make up a horrible nickname for a person and call them that often, right? Hazing examples might be, I don't know, you gotta jog until you throw up, right? There's all sorts of hazing which happens, and yes, it is a necessary condition inside of male packs. We haze each other constantly and consistently in every work environment I've ever been, at least in the blue-collar world, that is the case. And by the way, this is not only normal and regular, but I would consider it to be a good masculine trait. It's part of, do you know why we do that? It's to test out the shit that doesn't belong in the group. You're shit, you don't belong in our group, go away. You're shit, you don't belong in our group, go away. You're shit, you don't belong in our group, go away. That's what the whole purpose of hazing rituals are. So I don't consider that toxic.
So
why would that be toxic? That seems like it's the opposite of toxic.
There's some examples. Do you think there can be toxic? You think there can be hazing that goes too far that isn't good?
Sure.
Okay, so that would be.
Why would that be masculinity, though? Well, when you say toxic, do you just mean the word bad?
Again, so what did I say? It's behavior that is detrimental, damaging, or hurtful to oneself or
so
others.
Bad? Is that bad? You just
Sure,
mean bad?
we can conclude it as bad.
Yeah. So I would just say there's all kinds of behavior that I would engage with and say that that's bad. You can do bad things when you're hazing people, but that wouldn't mean that hazing wasn't necessary for in-group preference, because some people can do bad things, right? I would say it's still not an example of toxic masculinity, even though you would say it is.
So there can be appropriate hazing.
Tell me what is appropriate hazing?
I don't know, like, I guess.
Can I be super fucking mean to another guy and call him a bunch of names and give him a horrible nickname and talk a bunch of shit to him and run down his self-esteem?
If you guys are like joking around, you guys are friends, and this is like what you do.
That's not hazing. You're not friends with them yet. This is part of the ritual to become part of the in-group. That's what you do.
It could be toxic.
Right. You think it could? I think.
So
It can be. It's so vague. What?
You're
just into. Yeah.
We can't have like super fine lines for like all of these things. Like that, like behavior is not definitive for like every single person. Like it can go any different.
So
way.
it
It's not, like, a
seems
fine line.
Quantitative, you know.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem to me then that this has much in the way of KCUs, this version of toxic masculinity. If even behaviors that I point out that I would think you would consider toxic, you're like, well, it can be based on some ascribed motivation that we can't demonstrate. Well, I think all of that would be based around masculinity.
We're talking about an interplay between two components, right?
Okay, what are the
perception of one's masculinity or femininity, talk about toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. I'm sorry, and we're talking about the relationship between one's own gender view as well as the behavior itself, and whether or not that behavior itself is harmful for harmful for their goals. You know, like if you're in a situation and your goals are hindered by you engaging in this behavior, then we can consider that harmful, I guess.
Wait, what if the behavior is an immutable characteristic?
Second floors don't hire diplomas, they hire skills. Get both at WGU. Learn more at wgu.edu.
Like what, for example?
Man-spreading. Why do guys man-spread on the train?
I don't think that people are actually upset about man-spreading.
That's all.
Sure, yeah, no, like
that's not to be just utilized for toxic masculinity. I've heard it many times. But can you answer that? So that's an immutable characteristics. We have testicles, right? And when we sit down, sometimes we got to sit a little spread apart so that we don't crush them and we can let them breathe. Some people consider that to be a toxic male behavior, but it's really just an immutable characteristic that men have that we can't really help. So how do you explain those type of situations?
I don't know that I'd call man-spreading as like toxic masculinity, unless you're spreading your legs like way more than you need to, and you're saying like, well, I can do this.
Who determines?
Whatever.
Yeah, who determines who needs it?
If you're doing it to make somebody uncomfortable or something, like I feel like in those
what if you were doing it to make
situations,
somebody uncomfortable? That still doesn't seem like it would fit the criteria for your definition. That you're using something inherently masculine here.
Two parts. Like, are you doing? It's like, well, if you feel entitled to spread your legs as far as you can because, like, oh man, I can sit wherever I want. Like, or is it just like I'm just gonna do it and I don't give a shit. Like, I mean, it could be different things, right? The motive is part of it's a component.
Yeah, I understand that what you're doing is, again, what you're doing, and leftists do this constantly. What you're doing is you're taking a definition for some group of behavior, giving it a proprietary loaded definition, right? And then what you say, in order to prove its existence, is you say,
I need to kill like 100,000 bats, so that's why I'm doing this particular level. There's a lot of bats on here, but they're not all bats. There's a lot of skeletons and zombies too.
Based on this proprietary definition, it's just definitionally true. And it's like, but Ryan, that's why I came up with the example to explain to you that I can do this as well. I can just say this is definitionally what toxic masculinity is X, right? And you would have to agree to it as long as I loaded the proprietary definition with whatever the behavior was. We don't consider this to be toxic masculinity. What Starling is saying is he's like, I think it's better actually to group these as categories of just this is bad behavior or not bad behavior based on social standards. But to use the loaded term of toxic masculinity, or to even say that it's real, always bad, probably not the best way to characterize these things. You're using a loaded term in order to just kind of make it, and giving a loaded definition to make it proprietarily true. My proprietary definition true because it applies to these things. That's what makes it true. And it's like, but you can do that with anything. Like I could call it leflipidoo. I could say it's leflipidoo. And you would have to be like, well, yep, that's leflipidoo. It just would be definitionally true. And so it's like, that doesn't really serve a use here.
We have always gone our own way with herbs. That's nature's way.
Support in the world, meaning USA. So if you can lend your power, if you can actually get on the end of a politician via lobbying, and now he's doing your bidding, you can tell, even though BlackRock might not be the most powerful government institution, group, collective in the world, they actually are, because they have the funds to literally corrupt every country in the planet so they can get their way. Why can a company do that? That is oblivious.
I don't understand your point. You're just making my point for me, bro.
He's going to have a point.
You're just circling back to my point, though.
No, he's not.
I'm going to show you. As soon as you're done, you're circling right back to my point again.
So your point is always men are men, men are men, men are men, men is power, woman weak, woman weak, woman weak. My question to you is, why stop at men?
I don't.
Because there's a very small amount of men that actually wield the power that you talk about. Wouldn't that make the other men actually superfluous? I don't know if that's the word. Because you say
like lesser than. Like lesser than.
Yes, because what you say is if men got together, fuck that shit. That's not reality. Men will never get together.
They do it all the time. They do it all the time.
Matter of
Very
fact,
Queen next, and then I would.
Yeah, so I'd like to respond to some of this.
Let me just finish this and you guys can have it.
Go
For
ahead.
every man that has your point of view, there are going to be two men that are going to stand up and say, I'm going to fight for the rights of my wife, of my daughter, of my sister. So even your statement is a policy. Men are not going to get together to suppress women. Men are actually going to stand in their arms to fight other men for their sisters and their wives.
Like in Afghanistan?
Guys, Blue Chew Gold is the only one that's combining sildenafil, tadalafil, and apomorphine.
Sildenafil and tadalafil, they speed and power.
The apomorphine works directly in your brain to boost arousals.
The Afghanistan is a very
no. So men collectively in Afghanistan said, you ain't got no rights? No, what are women going to do about it, Fatty? Tell me.
They are not going to
They're going to complain to men. They're going to complain to other men in other countries and demand other men in other countries come in and fucking live with them, Fatty. Just admit it.
So yes, but that's the point. You actually prove my point. You are using the Taliban to say that men can go and take any right that women think they have when bigger when bigger dogs can
all women can do is appeal to men to liberate them from the men. That's it, because they can't enforce the rights, Fatty. For the 300th time, they can't enforce their rights, Fatty. They can't do it.
I'd like to hear from, hold on, Torsia, I would like to hear from you, and then we'll shift it back over to Fairy Queen, because Torsia hasn't spoken yet.
So I agree that men have enforcement, and I understand that, but then why is the church woke today, if that's the case?
Well, there's only one, the church. Now, you can argue that the one church, and Catholics argue it all the time, is the Catholic Church. I would argue it's the Orthodox Church, right? But that is the only structure of the church. There is no the church from a Protestant perspective because each Protestant considers themselves the church.
So just not your church.
Yeah, so just so you know, Catholics and Orthodox, it's a patriarchal religion. It's literally called a patristic faith for a reason. And women are not allowed to be deaconesses. They're not allowed to be priests. They're not allowed to hold positions of authority within the church. They're not allowed to be clergy. They're not allowed to do any of these things. So when you make these kind of bold claims of, well, why is the church woke? Well, the church isn't fucking woke. The truth of the matter is that they're the only ones who resist LGBTQ propaganda, feminism, the non-patriarchal viewpoints in the world. That's always been resisted by the church. Protestants fucked us up with Martin Luther, who was a worthless nun-humping man-whore, okay? And he messed up modern-day Christianity for the West with Protestantism. But the church is a patristic faith. It's patristic. Not there for women. Not for women's empowerment, in other words. It's there for women to be humble. The Bible teaches that women are liberated through childbirth. That is their true liberation. That is their true power. And literally, it talks about the salvation through childbirth because now you have a responsibility greater than yourself, an actual duty. It's not about my rights. It's not about my rights. It's not about what I get. It's not about my equality. It's about submission to Jesus Christ. That's what it's about, is submission to Jesus Christ. And the authority and the heads of inside of a marriage, for instance, the representation of what Jesus Christ is the husband. And so your job is to submit and obey. Your job is not to talk about how you want more egalitarianism and how you want more shit for yourself. That is not a Christian viewpoint. So when people say Christians ought to support this X political agenda, it's a perversion right from the outset. And then when we're able to reduce it, Tosha, we find out that the very people who are telling us that we ought to support women's rights, when you reduce what they think a right is, they just think it's force. If that is the case, then what they're actually asking Christians to do is use force. That's the only way it logically tracks.
And Fairy Queen to you. Thank you for your patience.
So, yeah, no worries. I have a series of questions. So, one, okay, do you think that the disabled have rights?
Well, again, I don't think we've established what a right is here.
I think that we have. I think I've said that I believe that like rights are.
Well, then no. Disabled people have no rights. Then, from your viewpoint, they don't. I think that Christians have a duty not to do horrible things to anybody, including disabled people. So, from my worldview, you would have a duty not to do horrible things to people, including disabled people. From your worldview, no. Disabled people have no rights except what the state says. In fact, if the state goes ahead like Germany did and says, all of this X people over here are going to die, and they actually forced this program. It was called I think the T program, where they went and they took all of the mental retarded people in the nation and killed them all. That's what they did, right? That was a legitimate program that they had. under your purview, that should be absolutely fine because that was the state, and the state was using enforcement, and that's the laws of the land. You shouldn't even have an objection to it. Only Christians would have an objection to it because we have a higher duty in how we have to treat people.
Well, obviously, I do have an objection to it, and my objection, and the way that I express my objection to it, is by not choosing not to live in a country like that. If tomorrow I found out
How do
that
you
my
know?
state like that,
You never had the option.
but if I did have the option, I would make that choice.
You don't know that.
Hallelujah.
Grip, stability, precision. That's the essence of driving. Lawful.
Making our best to share with others is a tradition that connects us all. From the communities and kitchens of fair trade farmers to the meals and memories made at your table.
Yeah, I mean, you could just.
You don't know that I would make
that's
that
just
choice.
that's just an ad hoc, it's just an ad hoc justification for you to say, well, I would never if I was there. It's like we don't fucking know what you would do if you were there. We don't
You
know.
don't know what I would do if I wasn't there either. You can't.
No, that's why I wouldn't. But that's why you couldn't accept it as being true.
I mean, this is exactly what Martin Luther King said when he made his final speech at on the mountaintop. He said, if I lived in China or Russia or any other totalitarian state, I would expect to have these illegal injunctions. But somewhere I read about the freedom of speech, somewhere I read about the freedom of assembly, somewhere I read about the right to protest for your rights. And that didn't come from the Bible, that came from the Constitution, and that was because when Martin Luther King made that argument in the 60s, is that he relied upon both a religious argument and a secular argument, and he
Well, I'm
combined
sorry that I have to blow your silly argument out real quick, but when you say that he learned about that from the Constitution, not from God, the entire axiom, pinnacle of the Constitution, is we hold these truths to be self-evident, right? This is our axiom, that all men are created and endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Who would this creator be if it wasn't God, ma'am?
Well, I mean, to be very frank with you, at the time, the founders, many of them were believers. They were deists, though. They weren't Christians in the same sense.
So they believed in God?
They believed in a God, but in a vague version of the God.
So then Martin Luther actually got the extension of all of these ideas from Christianity and God. And even deists, if you say that they're deists, deists themselves, yes, well, they weren't deists. Some were deists.
Some were
That
deists,
is true.
yes.
Like Jefferson wrote the Jeffersonian Bible, things like this. But the vast, overwhelming majority of the founding fathers were Christians. There was thousands upon thousands of contributors to the Constitution of the United States. They were all Christians. Every single state had its own church, and there was no separation even of church and state. Every single state had its own church.
Precisely the reason why it was so important that when George Washington made sure to say in the Treaty of Tripoli that this nation is in no sense
You mean Thomas Jefferson?
I think it was George Washington.
No, it wasn't George Washington in the Treaty of Tripoli. That was first of all, that was Jefferson, and second of all, no, that's an incorrect interpretation of what Jefferson was saying there. I believe that it was Jefferson, not Washington.
I'm pretty sure.
But hold it up and correct me. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I could be wrong. I accept that I'm wrong, but I don't think that I am in this case. I think that
the thing is, like.
Yeah, it was Jefferson. Yeah, it was Jefferson. I'm pretty sure it was Jefferson.
Aren't those books social constructs? Isn't the Constitution a social construct? Isn't the Bible a social construct? Something that a man decided or multiple men decided to write? Why are these things valuable and right? But every time you point something that was made by men that you don't like, it can be enforced. Why can't we look at the guys that wrote the Bible? It's a social construct, but God told us it's fine. Oh, it's the Constitution. It was made by people that believe in God. It's fine. All of these are social constructs. Why do we enforce some and we don't enforce the other ones? It's a valid question. Why?
Let me make sure I got the question right. You mind if I steel man it and then you can tell me if I'm right? Like, why do we enforce some things but not other things? Is that what you're asking me?
Probably that, but more closer. Why do you guys have conversations about? Oh, these people that wrote the Constitution believed in God. These people that wrote the Bible believed in God. These are social constructs. It's man-made. It's man-made. Man actually wrote those. Why do we consider those valid? But when it comes to these rights that other people wrote on the book and said, this is law, let's pass it, it's our rights, human rights, why do we have to disregard them? Like, why one is more powerful than the
So
other?
to steel man the position, if it's true that God is just a social construction, or the Bible's a social construction because man wrote it instead of like a divine being coming down and writing it himself, something like this. Why is it that we should adhere to those rather than other social constructions?
Yes, let's go with that.
Okay, so just so you understand, these are philosophical questions, and one of the philosophical branches is theology. And what we're talking about is we're talking about a great fallacy inside philosophy itself, which is what is axiomatic. Everything is axiomatic. So anything other than the theological branch is axiomatic, which can reconcile this idea of falsified starting points. We start at some arbitrary place rather than starting at the beginning, usually based around intuition or something like this. That's why the entirety of your worldview, Fatty and Fairy Queen, and all secularists will always reduce to the same exact thing, which is force, because there's no other thing to reduce it to. It's just me have gun, me have intuition, me want you do thing, you do thing. That's it. That's the entirety of your worldview reduced. It's always going to be the entirety of your worldview reduced. It'll never be anything but that. That's why.
Why is your worldview different? Why is it different to be a Christian person? Why is it the case?
Because we have an unerring, unchanging standard from which to apply. And even if it weren't true, even if it was just axiomatic, the standard could not be changed even with force. And so since that is the case, we have an unchanging standard, and your standard is always subject to change because you don't believe that there can even be an unchanging standard, you will always build poorer civilizations, you will always have worse people in your civilizations, and you will always end up with the idea, the paradoxical idea, that people have inalienable rights, but you'll never be able to justify why. That's why.
Okay, well, I'm going to respond again because I think that we can justify why, and the justification is what you said. It's because a group of people get together and they agree on a set of principles and like what a nation should be. But I want to turn it back to what you think.
Okay, well, hang on. I'm not going to let you pivot yet. So if they move back, if they just start changing it to what they think a nation should be, then what happens if they change it to a nation where women don't have rights?
Okay, it's just a laxative.
Relax. It's Miralax. It works with the water in your body for gentle relief.
Dog grooming genius here, and I live for operational excellence. Cute makeovers? I see shop and sink.
Checkouts? Flawless.
Then that would be a horrible nation to live in, and I wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah, well, what's your objection to it, other than you just don't like it?
My objection to it is I think it's an evil state, and I have to...
Well, no, you don't believe in evil. You think evil has an ontology? You think that there's actual evil? No, you don't believe in fucking evil. Stop. Just stop. You're embarrassing yourself. Tell me what evil is. Tell me what evil is. Go ahead. What is it?
Okay. Well, I can tell you what I definitely don't think it is, and I think that...
Oh, that's great. I asked you what it is.
Okay. Well, I don't think that supporting something just because you think it works, if you think that it's not true, if you think that it's a lie, if you think that it's fundamentally not true, then for you to support it just because you get a benefit out of it, just because it sorts your life easier, just because it gives you a foundation to work with, if you don't actually believe the foundation underneath of which that surfaces, then you are doing something that I think is evil. And I do think that you're doing...
Yeah, what is evil, though? What is evil? Yeah, what is the ontology of evil? What is it? Is it just anything that doesn't align with your preferences is evil?
I mean, yes.
Yes.
Like, and that goes for everyone.
So great.
You can laugh at me, but like I'm gonna laugh at you.
So the entirety,
referring back to like what I think.
Hang on. If the entirety, if the entirety of the idea of it's evil because it doesn't align with my preferences, then you can never make an objection to anything that I say, because as long as it aligns with my preferences, it can't be evil. So here's the thing. I think it's evil for you not to believe in every single lie. Why am I wrong?
I mean, you might not be wrong. That's your opinion. That's a personal preference.
Unfucking believable.
I can't like...
It's like, hey, you can't tell me what it would be wrong for me to advocate lies. That's insane.
Why isn't it...
And Andrew, your mic is popping when you escalate. I don't know if you need to click a volume or something.
That's on your end, not on my end.
It's popping. I can adjust it on my end then.
So anyway, so back to this. Now that we've established evil doesn't even have an ontology, I'm going to demonstrate how you don't even believe what you just said. You literally don't even believe the thing that just came out of your mouth. Have you ever heard of Plato and Plato's Republic and the idea of the noble lie? The idea here being that if a civilization could be united around a lie to the point where they thrive, but if you were to take away that lie, the entire civilization would be doomed. Would you advocate then that we lie or enforce that lie or promote that lie or take that lie away, ma'am?
If it's actually dishonest for my personal preferences, I think that you should take the lie away. And I think that you should be honest with people because I think
Even if it led to the destruction of the people?
it would depend on depending on
it would
what
depend
it
now. Okay. So,
Okay, so I'm gonna return to what I was
what you're saying, so what you're saying here is
that I think that like what you
hang
are
on, I'm almost done with the inquiry, and then you can move the topic on. Okay. Again, what you're actually saying here then is not that you believe that honesty is the best policy, or even that you believe it's evil. You said it depends on the situation. So if you thought that a lie was sufficient enough to hold the glue of a civilization together and lead to great outcomes in the civilization, you would support said lie. Would you not?
I don't think that I necessarily would. I think that depending on
You would let
how
the whole civilization die? You think that that's the more moral position? Really? Christians opt to follow what you have to say, huh?
I think that if you are watching an entire town being slammed with a tsunami and dozens of people being murdered and destroyed in their beds, and you decide that you're going to ignore that and you're going to continue to worship the person who made those conditions possible because you think that you're going to get a benefit of a easier life, a philosophical foundation, and the chance for you to go into heaven, that you are doing something wrong. Because what you're saying is basically that you're fine with innocent people suffering and dying in exchange for you being able to receive the benefit of you not burning.
Yeah, but
so I don't think that's a moral thing. I actually think it's
what
very
you did was
powerful.
you made an introduction of conditionals which are actually absent to the point here, right? So let us assume for a moment the government's not lying about any tsunami which happens. In fact, Christians, let's just say, because this is true, overwhelmingly pour support in for those tsunami victims, unlike the secularists who are always bitching about how nobody's doing enough, even though it's always the Christians.
Can you prove
Yes, I can prove it. Yes, in fact, Elon Musk himself has stated this emphatically all over Twitter. They've run the numbers multiple times. Christians overwhelmingly give more to charity. But on top of this, let me finish my point with her, and then we'll move to you. let us assume for a moment, and yes, I'll demonstrate those for you, Patty. Let us assume for a moment that the government was completely transparent with those things. Absolutely. And it led to overwhelming charitable contributions from, like, said Christian, which it does, right? It does. If you were to pull that away, it led to civilization collapse. And when you had, like, a hurricane or something like that, actually less and less people contributed or decided to help because they all turned into fucking nihilists and the civilization collapsed. Why would you ever in a million years want to push for that system if that were going to be the case? Now here's what you can't do. What you can't do is change the conditionals around to, but what if that wasn't the case? I'm saying, what if this was the case? If it were the case, 100%, that by stripping away whatever this noble lie was, that the population would collapse and the outcomes for everybody in it would be far and away worse. Dead babies, the whole 9 yards. Would you support the noble lie or wouldn't you?
Would I support the noble lie? It depends on like what you mean when you say that. But I suppose the short answer would be, I probably would. But that is a dishonest framing of this situation, and it's dishonest because.
Well, then it's not evil to lie. Then it's not evil to lie.
It is evil. It is evil.
No,
it's evil to yourself.
So what does that even mean?
Do you think
it doesn't mean anything?
Do you think that it's okay
It's evil to you.
Do you think that it's okay for you to the benefit that you receive is not other people not suffering. The benefit that you receive is you not suffering, your soul, your salvation, you being sure. It's you as an individual. You are the person who suffers as a consequence for making this choice, not millions of other people. That's not who's. And secondly, if we're going to talk,
as long as you change the conditionals, you can change conditionals in any which way you want. That's my logic. That's fine. But changing the conditionals around when you already answered yes proves 100,000% that your earlier bullshit answer
of
is evil turns
it's absolutely evil.
It's not evil.
It's absolutely evil. If you are
so you're evil.
Do you think bone cancer is evil? Do you think that bone cancer is evil? Do you think that children dying of leukemia is evil? Do you think that natural disasters are evil and like people not helping out is evil? Do you think so? Because you saying that you don't have a moral foundation to that, to me, that's ridiculous. I think.
No, I said evil doesn't have an ontology. You're the one who claims it does. So on top of this, you not only did you refute yourself and the fact that lying was evil because you yourself would do it as long as I gave you the certain subset of conditionals.
Yeah, but the certain subset of conditionals that you're talking about is other people suffering. And that conditional that exists within Christianity, the conditional that exists within Christianity is that you accept evil
Good afternoon, everyone. Under the leadership of President Donald J. Trump, the rogue Iranian terrorist
invading Earth.
봤어?
내 식구들 입에 밥을 넣어주기 위해 무슨 짓을
Talk to us or talk about pH balance in our body. Are we too acidic or are we too alkaline? Does that really matter? How important is that for our body to be right down the middle or one way or the other?
I can tell you it's very important. And there's the two extremes because some people are too alkaline. Alkaline is like baking soda. Acid is like vinegar. So our body naturally, physiologically becomes acid. So our physiological process is acid. Stress is acid. We need to eat acid. Our body physiologically becomes acid. So our physiological process is acid. Stress is acid. We need to eat acid.
True aliens versus Kush aliens. Damn. True aliens versus Kush aliens. The battle continues.
Our body physiologically becomes acid. So our physiological process is acid. Stress is acid. We need to eat acid. We need to eat acid. We need to eat acid. So our physiological process is acid. Stress is acid. We need to eat acid. We need to eat acid. We need to eat acid. We our body physiologically becomes acid. So our physiological process is acid. Stress is acid. We need to eat acid. We need to eat acid. We need to eat
Roll up that Yoshi, pour up that Kirby. It's time to turn up. Pull it up. Pull it up. And it's up.
has been going crazy.
College is the most unserious part of your life.
He's not someone who lets things go.
No. You're not allowed. Not allowed.
Man, drop that shit for these fuck niggas.
When a shopping cart smashed my headlight, we worried filing a claim would take forever.
Her life would revolve around the shopping cart.
In a
a brand new Maserati. That's a whole lot of new money. Session that had it from 12. Rolling swirling them bills. Serving the royals the year. Beating that China like who's the kitchen. We really was in that fishing working. I got no syrup from rolling them hands. Made myself a mouth up to the floor. Either way you put it, these long good. Triple salute niggas great at that. Make a soda water splash on scales. Right in my pot of my lip. Leaning all the way over to the side. Don't be a fool way to it now. The dirty too money is summertime. In my recipe, young nigga move that dough. Young nigga move that dough. Hey, move that dough. Hey, move that dough. Young nigga move that dough. Young nigga move that dough. Young nigga move that dough. Hey, move that
Other way. You twisted it the wrong way.
What do you want me to do?
Just look down. All right. Just look at me. Look what I'm doing.
Yeah.
All right. You see the way I'm twisting it?
Yeah.
All right.
Twin Village Collective.
Bet you can't run as fast as T-Mobile. Bet you I can. Well, you better pick it up because T-Mobile now has the fastest 5G home.